everybody to the April 7th Board of Adjustments meeting. Um, the meeting is being recorded. Everybody will stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, liberty and justice for all. April, will you call roll, please?
Chair Eggline,
Here.
Vice Chair Tholt,
Here.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Here.
Ms. Beckwith,
Here.
and Mr. Top is absent, but we do have a quorum with 4 members present.
On the website.
So if the board does not approve the draft minutes from the last meeting, they will just remain in draft form. So the official record is the recording of the meeting, not the minutes. The minutes serve as a key to the official record, the recording. Just faster reference for someone looking for something specific since they are time-stamped.
Chair, if I may, I feel confident in staff's ability to produce minutes, so I might move that we approve the draft minutes from March 3rd. That's okay.
I'm confident also. I will second it.
Any discussion? I see none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I lost for words. Again.
Minutes are approved, and we can
Great.
proceed to the public hearing.
Good evening, Chair and board members. This evening we have 2 variance applications. Did we want to present these on the screen or? Pursuant to section 1155C of the City Code, to approve a requested variance for a new building or portion thereof, the Board of Adjustment shall consider the following standards and find as follows. The variance will not create a significant risk to the public health, safety, or general welfare. The variance will not significantly reduce or impair the peaceful use of existing property or improvements in the vicinity in the zoning district in which the subject property is located. And strict compliance with the provisions of this title would create unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty. In evaluating standards in C above, the Board of Adjustment may consider the following factors: special conditions and circumstances that are unique to the applicant's site, including the size of the property, unusual or extreme topography, or unusual shape of the property, the height, location, or dimensions of existing structures located on the site or in the vicinity of the site, whether there is a prevalence of nonconformities in the vicinity of the site that are similar to the variance requested, subsequent imposition of zoning restrictions creating nonconforming lots or parcels, and the governmental actions beyond the applicant's control, whether a literal interpretation of the provisions of this title would deprive the property owner of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties similarly situated in the same district under the terms of this title, the extent to which the hardship or difficulty results from the actions of the applicant, and whether granting the variance requested will confer an unreasonable special privilege to the subject property that is not available to other properties similarly located in the same zoning district. Variance motions and conditions criteria. Section 1155F of City Code states the following: the Board of Adjustment may impose conditions to minimize adverse impacts that the variance may have on the public health, safety, or general welfare. Any approval that includes conditions is subject to the terms of the conditions. Conditions stated in the approval may include, but are not limited to, a time period in which the proposed structure shall be completed, and other conditions necessary to mitigate adverse effects from the variance. It is the recommendation of the city attorney's office that staff does not make a recommendation to approve or deny a variance. Montana law states the Board of Adjustment has authority to consider upon appeal in specific cases such variance from the terms of the ordinance as will not be contrary to the public interest, where owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship, and so that the spirit of the ordinance shall be observed and substantial justice done. Montana Code annotated 76-323. For motion approval or denial, the condition will be a building permit must be obtained within 1 year. And to start off this evening is item 1, 522 First Street, with consideration of a variance from section 1142 to reduce the west side lot line setback from 8 feet to 4 feet in an R1 zoning district for the property located at 522 First Street, Helen, Montana 59601, with the geocode of 051-888-312-030-70000, and legally described as Lot 13A of the amended plat of lots 13 and 14 and the easterly 12 feet of lot 12, all in block 558 of the original Helena town site, Lewis and Clark County, Montana, as shown on plat filed under document number 604838 Bravo. And the second variance, or the other variance, would be a variance from section 1142 to reduce the garage entrance setback from 20 feet to 16 feet in an R1 zoning district for the property located at 522 First Street, Helena, Montana 59601, with the geocode of 051-888-312-030-70000, and with the legal description as previously described. So here we have the property location. It's on the southeastern corner of First and Davis Street. And the history of applicable permitting action: 1975 was the earliest building permit on file, which was for electrical work. There were other permits for interior renovations, MEP systems, re-roofs, foundations, and those were approved from 1977 to 2023. And in 2010 and 2021, there were variances for a garage, studio, carport that were approved. 2010 was from a previous homeowner. 2021 was the current homeowner. Shown here is the site plan with the garage to the west of the property, 4 feet from the western boundary or property line. Shown here is the plat. This is the existing site. Directly in front of this image is one of the curb cuts that currently exist. And this will be the second curb cut with the parking pad. Surrounding area buildings consist of residential area with homes ranging from a build date of late 1800s to mid 1900s, with a couple homes as well built in the late 90s and early 2000s. These are the relevant conditions. The top two photos show one of the addresses that was referenced in the staff report for having a shorter garage entrance setback, and that is similar to the lower one as well. And the purpose of this variance would allow construction of a new garage and ADU on the property, consolidate two existing curb cuts into a single driveway approach, which would update the current sidewalk and preserve the existing site landscaping of two established trees by reducing the required setbacks. Departmental comments. Building department commented exterior walls less than 5 feet from the adjacent property line shall be constructed of a 1-hour fire assembly with exposure from both sides. Projections less than 2 feet from the property line are not permitted. Projections that are equal to or greater than 2 feet but less than 5 feet from the property line shall be 1 hour on the underside, or heavy timber or fire retardant treated wood. Only 25% maximum of the wall area less than 5 feet but greater than 3 feet from the property line is permitted for a wall opening. Transportation stated there were no issues with the requested side yard variance. However, they do not agree with the proposed garage setback reduction request with the existing driveway parking area or the current parking pad that extends 23 feet from the back of the sidewalk, which is more than the requested 21 feet. Parked vehicles encroach on the sidewalk or pedestrian route. And that is referencing, we can see in this image here, it's not the best profile view, but that's what transportation was referencing, was the parking of that truck and a slight hangover on the sidewalk. And the planning department, the applicant did not provide an elevation or floor plan. However, that was provided to you this evening in paper form. Engineering, fire, and public works had no comment. And as for public comment, as of Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, no public comments have been received. And before you is a motion to approve or deny a variance from section 1142 to reduce the west side lot line setback from 8 feet to 4 feet in an R1 zoning district for the property located at 522 First Street, Helena, Montana 59601, with the geocode and legal description as previously stated, and a variance from section 1142 to reduce the garage entrance setback from 20 feet to 16 feet in an R1 zoning district for the property located at 522 First Street, Helena, Montana 59601, with the geocode and legal description previously described, with the condition that a building permit must be obtained within 1 year. At this time, I can take any questions.
Travis, what were the variances that were granted in 2021? Do you remember them?
They were essentially the same. The site plan was slightly different. I can defer to the property owner
We can ask them.
to confirm that.
That's my question. Are we looking at exactly the same thing that was approved back in 2021?
When I was reviewing the building permits and I found that variance, yes, it was pretty much exactly the same. I think there might have been some slight differences in verbiage, but other than that, the requests were the same for the west side lot line setback and the front garage setback.
And those variances were approved back in 2021?
Correct. 2010 and 2021.
Chair, I have some questions. On one of these photos, it looks like I'm confused about the garage and the current parking pad. The current parking pad will go away and the current curb cuts will go away and it'll be one curb cut. And I guess my question is about one of the views. It looks like the property lines, and I know with these old neighborhoods that the current parking pad is not on their property, but the new structure would be all on their property with the 4-foot variance that they're requesting, is the question one.
Thank you, Commissioner Gustafson. That is correct. As far as the projection goes, it is off by about 4 feet. As far as the GIS mapping goes, that was plotted by Department of Revenue. However, when compared with the plat, it was confirmed that it was off. Those were taken into account when reviewing this project. So the property line is moved over to the west side of that parking pad.
Okay, so the new structure would be all on their property line
Correct.
with the 4 feet. Okay.
And yes, to answer the other part of your question, that current curb cut will be filled in with a new curb cut made.
In the middle. Okay. And then the transportation's comments about the driveway. So the 16 feet includes the sidewalk, and was transportation concerned that that's not enough space to have a car? Or I just don't really understand their the transportation's comments on the driveway piece.
Yeah, so 16 feet is from the back of the boulevard. So we have a 5-foot sidewalk, a 5-foot boulevard, and then that's where the property line actually starts.
Oh,
So
Okay.
if we take the 5-foot boulevard, that's what transportation is including, is 5 plus 16 gives us 21 for this current request. And
Okay.
he was making the statement that the current parking pad was at 23 feet.
okay. So maybe I misunderstood the comment that the transportation doesn't have concerns.
They do have a concern that this would be reducing in 2 feet. Because
Okay.
their statement was the 23 feet,
Versus 20,
21, yeah.
20. Okay.
So because with the current 23 feet, the way the vehicle was parked in the street view had the slight overhang in the sidewalk.
Okay.
Was transportation's concern.
And I think this was the same question, but the 21 variance was never constructed.
Correct. Neither of
okay.
these variances were built.
Okay, they were approved and
They
then
were
never built,
approved,
and so they had
correct.
to start all over with a new variance. Okay,
Correct.
got it.
Do you have any site plan that shows the location of the trees? Sounds like the trees, the existing conditions in the neighborhood, and the 2021 approved variants are the reasons for this application. So do you have an idea where the trees are located?
So as far as the trees, this would be the best image that I have is a satellite view of this map, which isn't very good.
Any way to zoom in at all or no? I'm just curious. Awesome, thank you.
Which I can't point with the cursor, but it looks like they're north and south. However, the applicant can confirm if that's incorrect. But it looks like there's a tree to the south and then a tree to the north of that tree.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yes, sorry, I have another one. Does the sidewalk stop halfway through their property? And will they have to continue the sidewalk to the end of their property when they modify the curb cuts? It's not relevant.
From what I've read in code, I would say due to the fact that there is a unit being built, that the chances are likely. However, I would have to confirm that with transportation. But it is a possibility. I would lean towards more likely than less, which will be reviewed during the building permit.
Commissioner Gustafson, as was presented last night in the commission meeting with the code changes, if it meets that ADU requirement, then it would not be required. But if it does not meet the ADU requirement and is a primary structure, then the sidewalk is potentially a requirement.
Thank you for reminding me of what I learned and already forgot.
So with that being said, it would be after May would be the requirement for no sidewalk. However, the definition might vary with the percentage count of this ADU qualifying as an ADU under that definition.
Well, and with the trailhead, I wonder how many people actually walk on the sidewalk, and maybe the homeowner can comment to that, whether they just walk down the street too.
Any further questions? You're good? All right. Thank you. The homeowner, thank you for your presentation. Yes, would you like to make a homeowner?
Chair members,
Are you wanting to know about the tree or would you like to know about the sidewalk?
We open it up, if you just wanted to make a presentation. I am curious if you bought the property knowing that the ADU was already, if that approved and that was part of the reason why you purchased it.
No, we didn't buy the property with that in mind.
Okay,
There was an architectural drawing of a very long single garage, and there was a studio attached in the before we bought it. We saw those architectural plans, and that piece of property, we didn't know what we would do with it, but it's very hard to live in a dead end street and have your cars on the street. And so that's why we started talking about doing a garage and the ADU.
there's a couple of site conditions. The pictures don't pick it up, but it's a pretty steep grade coming off of the street to the back of the lot. There's a one parking spot there that's off street, which would be turned into 2 off-street parking spaces with the addition of the garage. And the reason to keep that, or the reason for the request for the variance, is to just to accommodate the grade challenges with the lot, trying to get it to fit into the neighborhood without creating large stem walls and foundations by the garage pushing back too far. So there's a bit of a balance. There is a sidewalk along the entire frontage of the property, but it does end before it gets to the house, and there's kind of an awkward driveway that is to the west, to the east, that goes into the neighbor's yard, which makes it challenging for a sidewalk to go in. But yeah, so the
So
primary
our
reason,
eastern neighbor has no sidewalk because it ends just before our entry. So the sidewalk is,
so, and the truck is pulled up quite close to the
Yeah,
sidewalk
and
in
that's-
that image,
kind of
but there's quite a bit of distance behind that.
yeah,
truck,
there
so.
is. It's a lot of.
I don't know.
Do you want to talk about the trees since we had a tree question?
Yes. So we had a very tall, probably 5 stories, Douglas fir, and we had to make a decision about that tree. The first variance and the second one was based on preserving that tree. But we had several tree companies come out and they said it was leaning toward the house. And the first wind, which we think would have been January of this year, where our neighbor across the street lost a Doug fir of that size and it hit the neighbor's house. So we were just concerned because it was right over our bedroom. And so we removed the tree. So that one tree, which you probably see on that one picture, is no longer there. And it breaks our heart, but we feel like we preserved maybe that old house and maybe ourselves. So
There's there was a tree that was replanted in its place. Then there's a tree that's south on the property line on the west, and that tree is going to be kept as part of this. So the building, in keeping the building forward, should retain that tree. And then along the frontage of the property, it's primarily, I don't know what those trees are that go in that boulevard. They're more like bushes than trees. But this tree on the right would be retained, and there's likely to be some removal of some of these bushy things on the left. I'm not an arborist.
yeah,
so.
the windstorm did crack one, so it's ruined anyway. So it has to be all removed.
Chair, I have a follow-up question. So the first variance, the one to reduce the side lot setback, as I read it, was primarily because of the trees. The trees no longer exist. So is there a different reason to request that variance since they no longer exist?
You mean on the front or on the side?
The side lot.
Oh, at the front of it, on the sidewalk side. Well, that was so we could pull in, and we were just going to do something completely different. Once the tree was removed, then we decided we would do a two-car garage. But the first variance was because of the tree. And so right now, what we're trying to do is preserve the back tree and the one we replanted in that spot.
The other reason is the grade issue, because the lot slopes off at such a steep grade going back toward the south of the lot. It would require a very large stem wall in order to accommodate the garage parking off of the street. And so trying to shift the building forward because of the grade challenges, and preserve the tree on that back end of the property.
A follow-up question, Chair. The side lot request, the side variance request. So not the front where the sidewalk is, but the side one. So the purpose for that variance request right now is only to preserve the small tree, the seedling tree that was put in place of the Doug fir. Do I have that right?
That is correct, except there's a horse chestnut tree, which is very unique and unusual, and we're also trying to preserve that. That's in the back. But also the variance on the side gives us more level on that side. That it is more level. There is some grade, but the grade goes down from there. So we're trying to get over close to where we're level in order to put the building.
Yeah. So the grade of the street goes up to the east, and then it slopes sharply to the south. And so trying to shift the building toward that corner helps to create a better spot for that garage, which would, instead of creating a lot of challenging stem walls and height challenges for the building.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Any public comment?
So Chair, we have no one online. And for the record, no one has come forward in the room.
All right, I'm going to open it for board discussion.
I will start. Typically, we've held pretty staunch on the parking, on the garage setbacks here, but I think in this case, I think we need to keep in mind that we have that 5-foot boulevard, which really adds in an additional 5 feet to give you 21 feet, which gives you enough room to park a vehicle. So that parking on the sidewalk shouldn't be an issue. And the reasoning for reducing that west side lot setback from 8 feet to 4 feet, I think makes sense to me. And so for those reasons, and for the fact that there were some very smart people on this board back in 2021 that also approved this, I think I'm going to be in favor of these two variances. I might have been one of those people at 2021. I don't remember. So.
Can I request that we move to the criteria to be displayed on the screen? If that's possible. Thank you.
For me, the trees weren't factor in this. But I can commiserate with the slope of the site and where that is, because that is unique to the property. There is also a prevalence of nonconformity in the vicinity, which is another argument for it on 3.
While I agree there is prevalence of nonconformities, I don't see that prevalence in new build constructions in the area.
It's fair. Fair.
I appreciate transportation's comments, and I am inclined to not be in favor of that variance request because of transportation's comments and the concerns there. I also did not find the trees to be a factor that should be taken into consideration given the criteria laid out on the screen here. And because that was a primary factor, I'm also disinclined to approve of that variance request.
Chair, if I may. I see the point about cars, but I also see that it's a dead end sidewalk. And so that there's not, it does seem a little awkward there to be concerned about cars going over the sidewalk. And I don't know, obviously I'm a little new to this project, or process, but hardship for the property owner, I don't know if that's financial hardship, because I get their points about wanting to build the structure where the grade is more favorable. And so I think I'm in support of this project because it does provide off-street parking, which they don't have now. It is an infill project with an ADU. And I think, they're trying to do it well for the site, and it is kind of a quirky neighborhood with a variety of different things going on, including other garages that don't have parking in front of them.
Okay, I have a question for city staff. Just so I understand this right. Transportation issue was sight lines of drivers, not necessarily safety of sidewalk pedestrians, because we're safe there, right? Because we have our over 20 feet. I know I'm asking you to interpret somebody else's comments. I know that might not be fair, but if you'd help us with this, since it's a unique situation with the dead end street.
Chair, with my interpretation, I would say transportation's intent behind this comment was allowing for there to be pedestrian access on the sidewalk. However, I don't know if that directly answers your question. And if it does not, could you please repeat it?
I think transportation's comment is referred to that picture that's shown, but I think what's not shown in that picture is the space in front of the vehicle that it could have been pulled up further. And I think that is a disparaging comment to the homeowner that isn't quite as applicable as it should be, because with that 5 foot of the 5 foot encroachment that we have additional, they're well over the 20 at 21 feet. So they shouldn't be parking on the sidewalk.
Correct. There was about 2 to 3 feet behind the current park truck.
If I may, Board. As Vice Chair Tholt stated, that this is sort of an atypical condition for the city of Helena with curb, sidewalk, boulevard. So that does alleviate some of the transportation concern. However, because that is still right of way, there is always the potential in the future that if that road is improved and the sidewalks are replaced, that condition could flip theoretically, which I think is part of their concern there. That's fairly hypothetical and probably not really likely to happen. But yeah, as this is sort of an abnormal condition, that 5 feet may be able to be considered by the board as a sort of mitigating factor to that setback.
Thank you.
I guess I'm using that 5 feet for my reasoning of approval, that they only need 20 feet and they're actually getting 21. So in my reasoning, that's why I'm approving.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out if it's because the sidewalk's clear. If there was a site triangle issue with the boulevard, that's the part I don't understand transportation wise. If they want that clear for driving sight lines or something.
I believe it's just transportation's general desire to maintain that 5 foot clear sidewalk basically under all circumstances.
Okay. That's fair. That's, I mean, clear, a clear answer. Thank you. Any further discussion now that we beat that one?
Question for the planners. If someone parks on a sidewalk, what happens?
No code that's enforced by police
And
to receive a ticket.
so, and it's also complaint driven. So someone would have to see it, send in a complaint, and the condition would have to be the same when they got there.
Okay, any more further board discussion?
Can I ask the length of their cars? No, I'm joking.
Hang on. The variable. The variable. All right. Somebody want to put it for a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve a variance from section 11-4-2 to reduce the west side lot line setback from 8 feet to 4 feet in the R1 zoning district for the property located at 522 First Street, Helena, Montana 59601, with the geocode of 051-888-312-037-000 and legally described as Lot 13A of the amended plat of lots 13 and 14, and the easterly 12 feet of Lot 12, all in Block 558 of the original Helena town site, Lewiston, Clark County, Montana, as shown on plat filed under document number 604838-B, with the condition that a building permit must be obtained within 1 year.
I'll second that.
Any further board discussion? All right, I see none. April, will you call?
Chair Eggline,
Yay.
Vice Chair Thult,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Ms. Beckwith,
Aye.
motion carries.
I will make a motion to approve a variance from a section 11-4-2 to reduce the garage entrance setback from 20 feet to 16 feet in an R1 zoning district for the property located at 522 First Street, Helena, Montana 59601, with the geocode of 051-888 3120307000 and legally described as lot 13A of the amended plat of lots 13 and 14 and the easterly 12 feet of lot 12, all in block 558 of the original Helena Town Site, Lewis and Clark County, Montana, as shown on plot filed under document number 604838-B with the following condition that a building permit must be obtained within 1 year.
I'll second that.
Any further board discussion? Great, I see none. April?
Chair Eggline,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tholt,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Ms. Beckwith,
Nay.
motion fails.
Good evening, board. Tonight, item 2, we have variance 2603-0005, 1524 Gallatin. This is variance from section 1142 to reduce the front lot line setback from 15 feet to 10 feet in a CLM zoning district for a property located at 1524 Gallatin Avenue with the geocode of 051888 292352 00000 and legally described as Lot 11A of the amended plat of Block 48 in the Northern Pacific Addition to the City of Helena, Lewis and Clark County, Montana, as shown on the plat filed under document number 3263314. This is to construct a new structure on a vacant lot with reduced front lot line setback. This property is, as you can see, located in CLM district between Gallatin Avenue and Railroad Avenue. It fronts both streets. To the south is R3 zoning, and to the north on the other side of Railroad Avenue is the train yard with the depot just to the north west of where the site is located. History of applicable permitting action. In 2015, there was a plan review for an unconstructed triplex. And then earlier this year in 2026, there was a historic demolition permit for 3 little kind of garage shed-like structures that were on the property. Here is the proposed site plan. As you can see, it's sort of an L-shaped site. So with CLM zoning, there's a 15-foot minimum front lot line setback, which there would apply to both Gallatin Avenue and Railroad Avenue. It's quite a distance off of Railroad Avenue. It's fronting more towards Gallatin with this project. With CLM zoning, there is no minimum setback on the side setbacks for this property. So part of the purpose of this reduction is actually to move the building a little bit away from those side setbacks. In the kind of contained part of the L where that note proposed 10-foot setback on Gallatin Avenue is, there's actually a residential property there. And so by reducing the setback, they're moving away from that and not crowding the existing residence that is adjacent to the property. You'll see that in the photos here. Here's the plat showing it, and actually on this plat, you can see where that residence is on lot 13A there, fronting to Railroad Avenue. So here is the site looking at it from Gallatin. You can see the sort of remnants of the sheds that are continuing to be dismantled there. With the residence I just mentioned on the right-hand side of it. There's another duplex residence there on the west side, that blue building as well. Here it is looking from the Railroad Avenue side on the sort of skinnier side of the L. Surrounding area buildings, this is the the railroad neighborhood. The Railroad Avenue side of it is primarily commercial as you move to the west. There's a laundromat there, Haps Bar. There was a pawn shop that is currently closed. The other side of the street, the R3 neighborhood, is residential. These older structures in the railroad neighborhood have minimal setbacks as well, as is typical through that. And you can see that in some of these photos where the buildings are built very close to the lot lines historically in this neighborhood. This variance serves the following purposes. The L shape limits the building configurations. As I mentioned, it minimizes the impact to adjacent residential use on the north. And it aligns with the original development patterns of the area from before zoning restrictions. I will mention that this plan, as shown to you in this, does have other zoning issues. In CLM zoning, single and two dwelling unit residences are only allowed above a commercial. There is a commercial element on the first floor as shown in this plan, but the garages for the residents are on the ground floor. I've spoken to the applicant about this, and we've gone through a couple of different solutions that would meet the intention of the code, and still sort of give the use he's looking at. They do not change the configuration of the building from the site option. And the applicant has actually applied for a conditional use permit at this time to make this a triplex, to eliminate that residential over commercial aspect of it, but maintaining the exact same footprint as you're seeing here. City department comments. Building gives the typical comments. Exterior walls less than 10 feet from the adjacent property line shall have fire resistance rating. This is due to the commercial element of it. Commercial occupancies require a minimum of one van accessible parking space. Again, this has been discussed with the applicant for potential options of how that will work. And the minimum of 1 hour fire separation between the residential units with the 2 hour fire separation between the office and the residential. Engineering and utility provided no comment. The fire department gave their comment for any occupancy type, the project must meet the current adopted International Fire Code. And transportation stated they are okay with the requested 10-foot setback as long as the 20-foot garage setback is maintained as shown on the property line. And then as of today, we have not received any public comment on this project. And with that, I'll leave you with the recommended motion to approve or deny a variance from section 1142 to reduce the front lot line setback from 15 feet to 10 feet in a CLM zoning district for a property located at 1524 Gallatin Avenue with the previously mentioned legal description, with the recommendation that this would be conditioned with a building permit to be obtained within 1 year. And at this time, I will take any questions from the board.
Chair, if I may. Thank you. Can you go back to the site plan and repeat the piece about, so there's the setback from Gallatin Ave, but there's not a setback for what is essentially the internal lot line?
CLM zoning districts are allowed a 0 setback for side and rear property lines. Because this has 2 frontages, Gallatin Avenue and Railroad Avenue, all other property lines are considered side setbacks in this case. So in theory, it could be pushed all the way to the property line, but as you saw in the pictures, that would crowd the adjacent residential structures. So this is a bit to give some relief to that. The 10-foot setback is the 15-foot setback is unique to CLM zoning districts. All residential districts only have a 10-foot minimum setback.
Okay.
And our other commercial districts like B2 have 0 front lot line setback. So the MI and CLM zoning districts are sort of unique in that regard of that enhanced setback.
Okay. And to follow up, I'm a little confused on this drawing, but the building, the driveway off of Gallatin would meet 20 feet. And then does the building jog there? Where there, oh yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a door. Okay.
Yeah, the building does jog. So that portion on the east side, which is the plan south as you're viewing it, is shown as an office space. With the CUP, that would be becoming a smaller apartment compared to the two above it, but it'll be a third dwelling unit. But yes, the garage does jog back there the extra 10 feet to maintain that 20-foot minimum setback.
Okay. And then if I may, remind me the changes, because this was something that we maybe that was changed last night about ground floor residential. When does that go into, will they need a CUP in a month?
Yes, that will go into effect May 6th.
Okay.
Will be the effective date of that. So as shown here, yes, they would still with that because the garage there facing Gallatin Avenue is still not behind the commercial use. This was one of the things that was talked to with the applicant about it. If they waited until after that code was in, the new code would read that the residential use can be above, below, or behind the commercial use in the B2 or CLM districts. So one of the potential options here would be you would still not be able to access the garage from that side. It would become more like two tandem garages side by side accessed off of Railroad instead, and there would be no driveway and curb cut facing Gallatin Avenue. It was one of the proposed options that was given to the applicant before they went the CUP route.
Okay. And sorry, this is probably a detail that doesn't matter, but how do you decide which street is the frontage street when they have two?
So
Length?
typically it would apply to both. In this case, Railroad Avenue is not actually a road. It is a private road owned by, I guess now, Burlington Northern.
Oh, interesting.
It is railroad property, not city right of way.
Okay. So they could do whatever they want on the back. Okay, sorry. I'm done.
Chair, I have a question. Do you know the rationale as to why it's a 15-foot setback in CLM?
I have looked. I have not been able to find that. This came up a few months ago when we had the reduction in a CLM zone, similarly to, I believe it was from like 15 feet to 9 feet for that entry vestibule. And I did some digging at that time. In that neighborhood, everyone uses that 15-foot setback for parking, but it creates the issue that transportation is trying to avoid because it is only a 15-foot setback. So everyone is parking into the right of way then. So I do not know the rationale. And if it is something like that, it has been counterproductive and has actually worked against city goals.
Thank you for that.
Any further questions for Kyle?
Did you have a overhead photo? There's not a sidewalk currently, or is there? Oh, yeah,
there is
Okay.
sidewalk on both sides actually, and
Oh, on both
you can
sides.
see there on the Gallatin side and there on the railroad side.
So was there a parking pad on the Gallatin side with one of the sheds? Or
Something, not really. I mean, those sheds were very old, obviously, because they had to go through the historic demo process for removal of them. As to why they were historic, I cannot speak to. I never knew that part of it.
They were listed as contributing structures to the historic district. That's why there was a historic demolition permit.
Mhm. Yeah, there is a very small concrete pad there, but I do not know its effectiveness as a parking pad or if it was just kind of part of the entry into that structure that's been demoed right behind it.
Right, thank you, Kyle. The
Thank you, Brett.
applicant like to make a presentation? Okay. Is there any questions for the applicant? All right, I see none. Any public comment?
For the record, we have no one online still, and there is no one coming forward in the room.
All right, I'm going to open it for board conversation.
Chair, I'll start. I support this one. The L shape, the shape of the plot clearly, I mean, hampers doing things in the way the code tries to make them happen, and the applicant is seeking to, mitigate those circumstances as best as possible and provide space between a 0 lot line setback to a house that's also on like a very small setback. So I support this one.
Same, support it.
I will just make the comment. I appreciate what the applicant is trying to do here and the hoops he's having to jump through to make this happen. I very much appreciate, because from a historic demo permit for 3 sheds to this, which this variance in my mind actually more encroaches on the what the feel of the neighborhood is. It actually should be closer to a 0 lot line setback there. So I will definitely be approving this. I appreciate everything you're doing here.
All right, I concur. Somebody want to put it up for motion?
I will make a motion to approve a variance from section 11-4-2 to reduce the front line setback from 15 feet to 10 feet in a CLM zoning district for a property located at 1524 Gallatin Avenue with the geocode of 051-888-292352000000 and legally described as Lot 11A of the amended plat of Block 48 of the Northern Pacific Addition to the City of Helena, Lewis and Clark County, Montana, as shown on the plat filed under document number 3263314, with the following condition that a building permit must be obtained within 1 year.
I will second.
Any further board discussion? I see none. April, will you call?
Chair Eggline,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tholt,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Ms. Beckwith,
Aye.
motion carries.
I will ask again for any general public comment. I see none.
I will make a motion to end the April 7th, 2026 Board of Adjustments meeting.
We
And
need to do action items or announcements.
Well, just to announce, this is our last meeting with the changes to to titles 11 and 12 at last night's City Commission meeting. The city is coming into compliance with the Montana Land Use Planning Act. And with that, this board will be dissolved. So that is in progress. We thank you all for your service to this board. And if you are interested in continuing volunteer service, there are 4 open seats on the Planning Commission.
Tim, go ahead. Do you want to make a motion to?
I already did.
I-
I will make a motion to adjourn the April 7th, 2026 Board of Adjustments meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None.